This is how to add 3D text to any item in your closet right here from home. Now to complete this project, you don't need any fancy heat press or vinyl print, none of that, bro. You don't even need a sewing machine. You can do this all from the comfort of your own home. Now with that being said, what you are gonna need for this project is some needle and thread, some pins, some scissors, some foam padding, some fabric liner, and of course, whatever clothing item you wanna work with. In my case, I just chose to go with this regular black hoodie that I had. But again, this process is gonna work for any clothing item that you choose, whatever you got in your closet. It really does not matter. Now to start us off, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna choose what design and what text we wanna put on our clothing item. In my case, I chose to go with this Shibuya logo that I found on Pinterest. So I'm gonna pull that up on my computer, get some copy paper and trace it out. All this is gonna do is just act like our stencil for this project. And here's a little tip. Be sure to double check the size of your stencil compared to your clothing item. That way you know it's not too small, it's not too big. It's just right exactly how you want it to be. Then we're just gonna use our stencil to cut out a piece of the pattern that's the same size. And now that we have our stencil all traced out, we can begin the process of actually adding the words to our clothing item. So let's go do that. All right, now that we have everything cut out, we can move on to arguably the most important part of this whole process, and that's just the arrangement. So we have our lining, we have our foam, and we have our little stencil. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put the lining down first. Hello, Future Mari here. So I did end up taking the lining off while stitching, so you can just forget about it for right now, but we are gonna put it back on at the end, so just stay tuned for that. We're gonna take the foam, we're gonna put that on top. We're gonna set this to the side, and then we're gonna line up where we want our stencil to be. Now, make sure you mark where exactly you want your stencil to be on your garment. It just makes everything easy. As you can see, I have some little marks. Now that we have our stencil lined up, we can go ahead and pin it down to the garment just so it doesn't move for a little bit. Now that we have it pinned down, we can take our lining and our pad, and we can go ahead and slide it under the garment. We just wanna make sure we line it up with our stencil, which is why we put our stencil down first, exactly where we wanted it to be. All right, now that we have everything lined up, the stencil is directly on top of the padding and the lining. We can go ahead and pin it down one more time just to secure all 3 layers. You see what I'm saying? Now that we have everything where it needs to be, we can go ahead and take our embroidery ring and we can put it directly over top. Hello, I'm back. So the embroidery ring part is optional. Like, it only helped me a little bit, and sometimes it was just in the way. So just use your better judgment, you know, if you're gonna use it or not. If you don't have one, it's fine. It should still turn out all right. Like, you don't need it to complete this project. As you can see, my embroidery ring isn't big enough to cover the whole thing, so I'm gonna just cover what it can. So basically, this little middle part right here, and I'm gonna start stitching from the middle and work my way out. This is what the inside of your garment should look like if you're using the embroidery wheel. At the bottom, we have the lining, the padding, and then the embroidery ring. And then of course, on the front side, we have it like this. So now all that's left to do is for me to start stitching. All right, I have my needle threaded and ready to go. So now we can begin stitching. Now to stitch these letters, we are going to be using a back stitch. Now to start off a back stitch, you're gonna go under your fabric, and you're going to come through, go a little bit up, and you're gonna take it down. Take it down. And now you're gonna come back up through the fabric, just a little bit further away from where we went down the first time, right there. Push that through, I'm gonna pull it all the way through. And now we're gonna go back to where we ended our last stitch. So right here, push that through. And now all we're gonna do is we're gonna repeat that process. So I'm gonna go up and away, down and back. Up and away, and then down and back. And then we're just gonna repeat this process up and away, down and back, up and away, down and back, till we go around the outline of each letter. So I'm gonna start from the middle and work my way outwards. So yeah, let's do that. After I finished stitching everything, I took the stencil paper off, but there was still a few paper bits left, so I just used some tweezers and a lint roller to get them off the hoodie, just to make everything look, you know, neat and presentable. We finally finished stitching the jacket. It took a very, very long time, but here we are. This is the final product. Now we can move on to just cleaning everything up, making sure it's all nice and neat. And to do that, we're actually gonna flip the jacket inside out, and we're gonna begin working on the underside. This is what we're working with right now, and as you can see, it's looking a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie, it's looking a little all over the place. That's because I messed up. I should have just started stitching only with the padding, not with the lining on too. It was just too many layers to try to be stitching at once, which is mainly why it was taking me so long, just because I had stitched through so many layers at the same time. But first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut off all this extra padding. You see what I'm saying? So at the bottom, on the side, at the top, and then on this other side, just so when you actually put on the hoodie, you don't have this big old block just in the middle of your chest. You just literally have the 3D part. So I'm gonna grab some scissors, I'm gonna get to cutting. All right, now that we cut off all the extra padding, we can begin reapplying this fabric lining right here. You see what I'm saying? So I have some scraps that I used to cut it out the first time. We're just gonna use these, and we're just gonna apply them like so on top of the padding. Now all this is gonna do is just gonna hold our stitches in place. Now that's done, we're gonna come back with some parchment paper, and then we're gonna iron on the lining onto the padding. If you don't have parchment paper, don't worry about it. You can get a towel and place it over a rag, whatever, but just make sure you put in enough pressure so the adhesive on the lining, it melts and it attaches to our padding underneath. I have parchment paper, so I don't have to press that hard, but if you was using a towel or a rag or something, pressure. We're gonna get this iron, we're gonna start ironing on, and then we should be good. So let's do that. As you can see, we are done applying the lining, and now we are done with the whole process. This was the very last step. Now all that's left is to put on the hoodie, and I'm gonna let y'all get the final results. So let's do that. All right, we are finally done. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was probably the hardest project that I've ever had to do. And that's mainly because I'm sewing this by hand. Now, you guys, of course, can do this at home by hand too, but just be prepared. It is a lengthy process, especially depending on what you actually want to put on your garment. I chose to go with this 7-letter word. In hindsight, I probably would have went with like a 4-letter word max and just sped up this whole process. But I do think it turned out well. I was a bit on the fence about it at first because, you know, it's pretty dark, like you gotta get pretty close to even see what's on the thing. But then I thought, why are these people even getting close to me? Like, back up, bro, chill. Yeah, I like it. I think it turned out super cool. It definitely has the 3D effect. Like, it's real puffy. I'm poking it right now and it's just like, boop, boop. Okay, that's a little weird, but y'all get what I'm trying to say. If I had to rate it 1 through 10, I'd probably give it like a 7.4, only because it's not like, in your face, but it's real calm, it's real chill, and it's still 3D. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I'll give it a 7.4. If you like this tutorial, if you were able to follow along, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm gonna catch y'all next time. All right, y'all.